Hello, my name is Olivia, and I work for the Compliance Assistance and Outreach Branch at the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. Today I will be providing instructions for navigating and reporting different actions in the off-road online reporting system, DOORS. There are two sides of DOORS, a side for off-road diesel vehicles and a side for large spark ignition or LSI vehicles. Today I'm going to be going over the reporting actions in the off-road diesel side of DOORS and not the LSI side. I'm also not going to be going over the requirements of the regulation, but rather some of the more complex reporting actions required in the DOORS system. It is designed for diesel equipment owners who have already entered their vehicle or equipment information into the DOORS system. If you're just starting your compliance journey and need to learn about the regulation requirements, my colleague Randy presents a great webinar and in-person class about the regulation itself. You can find more information about these on the Off-Road Zone or on the Off-Road Diesel Program page. In addition to these classes, we also offer many FAQ documents and DOORS user guides, which can be found on the Off-Road Diesel Program Knowledge Center webpage. There's a link to this right on your DOORS homepage. Orange box right here. If you are completely new to the DOORS reporting system, I suggest you follow along with the video, but you will need to complete the initial reporting process before your equipment is loaded into DOORS. You can find a user guide for initial reporting in the Off-Road Diesel Knowledge Center. Okay, so let's get started. If you have questions after you watch this video, you can give the DOORS hotline a call or you can send us an email. But I'm going to start now. The topics that we're going to be covering today are the compliance snapshot, reporting engine repowers, reporting low-use vehicles, reporting public funding, and completing the annual reporting process, or the ROAR. Okay, so the first topic we're going to be going over is the compliance snapshot. The compliance snapshot is the brain of DOORS and provides you with an overview of your fleet and compliance timeline. All the information that you have entered into DOORS provides a will provide a summary of the vehicles that you have reported, including fleet statistics and your current compliance status. It calculates your fleet average emission level and lays out the target you must meet. It also summarizes any backed credit you may have received for taking actions. So we're going to go into DOORS, and the page that we're going to be looking for is called the Compliance Snapshot page, or tab. It's going to be listed at the top of the screen. All of these buttons up here are different pages and tabs that you can click on, and they're all in your fleet. Okay, so I'm going to go to DOORS now. I'm logged in, and I have my fleet here. I click on my fleet name, and it'll allow me to enter into my fleet information. The first page that comes up is the vehicle and engine page. You can see that on this page you can enter a vehicle with an EIN. You just plug it in here, purchase date, click buy. You can also enter a vehicle without an EIN. And you have to enter in all the vehicle and engine information. And then if you keep scrolling down, you can see all of your vehicles listed there that you've already entered. Okay, so we're going to scroll back up to the top, and we're going to find that Compliance Snapshot tab. I'm going to click on it now. And just so you know, this page always takes a couple seconds to load. It's doing a lot of calculations, so you just need to give it some time. Don't get too click happy. It just takes a couple seconds. All right, so the first thing you will notice when this page loads is a message telling you about the state of your fleet. So for this fleet, it says, your fleet as currently reported has met the off-road regulation performance requirements through the January 1st, 2021 compliance date. Per regulation section 2449.1, you will need to take action prior to December 31st, 2021 in order for your fleet to be in compliance on January 1st, 2022. So this is going to vary depending on your fleet's current compliance. It'll tell you when you're in compliance till and when you need to take action by. If you're not in compliance currently, your message will come up in red and it will tell you what you need to do. All right. Just below that is the current statistics and an overview of your fleet. This fleet has 8 vehicles, with a total horsepower of 2,240. It also tells you if you have vehicles that are in low use, and if you have vehicles that are exempt, not low use. It'll also tell you if you have vehicles in funding contracts. Currently, I don't have any of those things. And if you go down, you can also see when your first compliance date was and when your next compliance date is. So this is when you need to do something by. All right, so 2022 is the date that we need to take some action, or else we're not going to be in compliance. Okay, the next table down is the fleet target and emission rate table. This is important. It will show your fleet's average target for each year and your fleet's current average emission rate. The fleet average is based off your fleet's overall emission rate for both oxides of nitrogen and diesel particulate matter. So you can see that for this fleet, their fleet average right now is 4.8. They need to be under 6 for 2019. So they are meeting that, so it's green. They're also meeting it for 2020, and they're also meeting it for 2021. They are not meeting it for 2022, so they're going to have to take some sort of action on their fleet so their average lowers. And so they'll need to bring it down so that it meets that 2020 target of 4.6. Okay, so just below that, you can see that we have their current fleet average again listed. And then just below that, we have the compliance summary table. This table will show you how backed credit is used to push out your compliance date. And as you earn backed credit, you will be lowering your fleet average rate as well. It will show you how much back you will need to earn each year in order to stay in compliance. So you can see over here on the right, it's the backed requirement column. It will tell you that you need 10% of your total horsepower in backed credit in order to push out your compliance date. So for this fleet, it needs 224 horsepower worth of backed credit. And we're going to talk about a couple ways to achieve that backed credit, and we'll take some actions and see if we can earn that backed credit. Okay, so down below that we have the table that shows your fleet size over the year. And then down here in the left corner, we also have a couple more links. This first one is really helpful, the snapshot calculation detail. I'm going to click on that and show you that really quick. In this detail, it explains all the calculations, and it shows you how these fleet averages are calculated. So it has all your vehicles in one table, and it shows you the math for how we calculate that fleet average. There's a ton of other calculations on this page. We're not going to go over all of them, but this page is really helpful when you're trying to figure out which of your vehicles is affecting your fleet average the most. Okay, so I'm going to close this out now and go back to my compliance snapshot. There's one more thing I want to show you on the compliance snapshot. If you go to this drop-down menu right here, you can change the year. So you can go back to previous years and see how your compliance was in those years. And you just click refresh fleet data, and it'll load the previous compliance snapshot. All right, so that concludes the compliance snapshot overview. We're going to move on to our next topic. Reporting engine repowers. So one way to help your fleet comply with the off-road diesel regulation is by repowering your engines. This means removing an older engine and installing a newer engine with the same or higher tier. So when you're reporting this, you're going to need specific information to report this action into DOORS. For example, you will need the date that the old engine was removed, the new engine information, and the dates of purchase and installation. Before you report this in DOORS, you need to gather all this info. So this process is commonly completed incorrectly, so we want to make sure we follow the correct procedure, and that way you can utilize the possibility of earning backed credit in your DOORS account, which can push out your compliance date. So when we're in DOORS, we're going to be looking for that engine repower tab or page. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my account now and click on engine repower up here in the left corner. I just want to, before I click on that, I want to show you what many people do, which is wrong. If we go to the Vehicle and Engine tab, a lot of people will edit their vehicle and add that new engine information in instead of doing the correct repower process. So they'll just go down to their equipment list and click Edit, and then they'll change the engine information there. If you do this, you're not going to receive any back credit, so you don't want to do it that way. All right, so if you've already done that, contact the Doors hotline and we'll help you figure that out. So I'm going to show you the correct procedure. You're going to click on the Engine Repower tab. Okay, and so it's going to list all these all your vehicles here in a list. You can also search if you have a large fleet with a bunch of vehicles. So the vehicle that I'm going to repower and show you guys is Vehicle 8. So let's find that. And then I'm going to click Repower Replace Engine over here on the left. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is enter the removal date. And then we're going to put in new engine information. One thing to note when you're entering information into these tables is you don't want to click Enter on your keyboard. It'll kick you out of the program. It's not compatible with that action. You need to actually click Enter with your mouse on the button that's provided. Okay, another thing to note is that when you're entering in these dates, you need to make sure that they make sense. Like the install date needs to be after the removal date. If it's before, the system's not going to allow that. We don't need to enter anything for non-diesel engines. It doesn't apply. And also, it's not certified to a different standard. So instead of hitting Enter, we're going to click Repower Engines right here. All right, so it says data has been saved. And if you scroll down, you can see that the new engine information is listed there. You can also click on this button here, Show Removed Engines. If you scroll down, you'll see that the engine is now there in your Removed Engines list. If you made a mistake, you can always click Oops, Restore. This will only be available for a short time, though. And if you need to edit something after that, just give the Doors hotline a call and we can help you out with that. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic, reporting low-use vehicles. So there's several different types of low-use designations that can be reported in Doors. All types of low-use designations require the vehicles to stay below 200 hours per year. Every vehicle designated as low-use must have a non-resettable hour meter installed, and if a vehicle designated as low-use, it doesn't count towards the fleet's total horsepower, and therefore it's not included in the fleet average. So in other words, low-use vehicles do not have to be turned over or retrofitted, but you need to report annually the hours. So this is a really good option. So if you don't use your vehicles very often and they are older, it can help you stay in compliance longer. I'm going to go over the different types quickly. The first type is year-by-year low use. This is a type that will allow you some flexibility. So if in the future you decide you need to use that vehicle over 200 hours, you can do that. You just have to report it indoors. It will be added back into your fleet horsepower, and it'll be added back into your fleet average. So you need to make sure it's not going to make you out of compliance when you do so. For this option, you also have a 3-year rolling average option. So if you stay under 600 hours in 3 years, it doesn't matter if you go a little bit over or under in those 3 years. The next option is permanent low use. This option is great if you know that going forward you're not going to use this vehicle over 200 hours. You need to designate this permanently, so you're not going to be able to go back on this unless it meets the adding vehicle requirements for the regulation. Also, with permanent low use, you have the possibility of receiving back credit. But again, you can't go back on the designation without losing that backed credit, and you need to meet those adding vehicle requirements. Okay, the last type is outside low use. Vehicles that are used part of the time outside of California and operate under 200 hours per year inside of California can claim this designation. But again, you need to stay under 200 hours per year in California, and you also must report the hours that are operated in California yearly. You can do it permanently or year by year as well. Okay, so when we're indoors, we're going to be looking for this low use tab right here. We're going to go do that now. So click on the low use tab. All right, and you'll see there's some instructions here at the top. There's some instructions for how to do it as well. You can also search for the vehicle that you want to designate, and then it lists all your vehicles right here. So I'm going to designate my vehicle number 3 as permanent low use. It's going to come up with a little message saying, you know, this is permanent. You're not going to be able to change this after submitting the form. I'm going to say okay. I know that I'm not going to be able to operate this over 200 hours going forward. I'm going to select the effective year. It only gives me one option, 2018. And to save this, I can either click Save Low Use Designation or Save Low Use Designation and enter low use hour meter readings. So I'm just going to click the first one. It says data saved, and now it shows up as permanent. And you can see that I'm not able to change it now. All right. So now when I'm ready to report the hours during annual reporting season, which is January 1st to March 1st, I'm either going to click on the low use hour meters reading button right here, or I'm going to click on this button down here, Save Low Use Designation and enter low use hour meter reading. We'll just click on the first one, and you'll see that the vehicle that is listed as low use shows up here. And when I do my annual reporting in January, I'm going to be entering in the start of the year hours right here, and the start of the year hours for this year right here, and then the hours for the end of this year right here. So you can see I have some hours plugged in there already for last year. It says I had a total of 4 hours, but so for next year when I do reporting, I'm going to have to enter 364 again as the start, and then I'll need to enter the ending hours, which I'm just going to plug in 400. So once I click enter, it's going to populate with the total hours there. Okay, so you always need to add those beginning and ending hours. And it's a little confusing because you have to enter the same number twice, but you just need to bring this number, put it over here, and add that ending number. Okay, we get a lot of questions about this process. You just have to read the titles of each box, and it'll help you understand what you need to enter. All right. Okay, so there's also some instructions here for you, and you can click Save right here when you're done. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to look at the updates in the compliance snapshot. So we did a couple things since I showed you the compliance snapshot at the beginning. We did an engine repower, and we did a permanent low use designation. So these are both things that can affect our fleet average target, fleet average, and also our backed credit. So we're going to go over to doors now and see if any changes happened. So we'll click on our compliance snapshot again. Just remember, it takes a couple seconds. All right, so that's loaded. What I'm going to do is put this side by side with my presentation. I have the old fleet statistics on here, so we can look at those side by side. Okay, so what you can see is that our fleet average has changed. It's now 4.3 instead of 4.8. We have only 7 vehicles in our fleet average now. Our horsepower and fleet average has gone down. And you can see that our next required compliance date is actually a year later now. All right, so you can see that we're now green for 2022, and we have a new target of 4 by 2023. If we keep going down, we can see that we now have some backed credit. We have 200 in backed credit. It's not enough to push out our compliance date another year. We need 6 more horsepower in credit in order to push it out. But you can see that, you began earning credit. If you actually click on this, it'll show you what the credit was for. So I'm going to open this in a new tab and show you how it does that. So what it does is it brings you to that detail page that I was showing you earlier, and it shows you what vehicle earned that credit. So this is really helpful. I'm going to make this big again. All right, so if you go down, you can see as of 2019, I earned backed credit. All right. And if you want to know what vehicle earned that backed credit, you just have to scroll up and click Show Credit Detail. And then you can scroll down and see. So that was for that low use effective year. So in 2018, we designated this vehicle as permanent low use. So what happened is we earned 200 horsepower in credit. All right, I'm going to close that out. And that concludes showing the changes in our compliance snapshot. I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint again and move on to the next topic. So the next topic is reporting publicly funded vehicles indoors. Fleets that receive public funding or incentive funding to replace, repower, or retrofit their vehicles have some additional reporting requirements. There are several different types of incentive funding that is distributed by local air districts. Some of the current programs are the Carl Moyer funding program and the SOON program. There's also some past funding programs that you might need to report indoors as well. So a fleet can receive public funding for replacing a vehicle, replacing or repowering an engine, and installing a verified diesel emission control device, or VDEC. Before you can enter this into the vehicle, you're going to have to collect that funding information. If it's not properly reported, you will not be able to report the public funding, and you may miss out on some backed credit as well. So there's 3 important steps when you're reporting publicly funded vehicles. You need to report the action that was funded, edit the vehicle to show yes, it has received public funding, and then report the contract info on the vehicle funding page. So I'm going to show you how that's done indoors now. So the first scenario I'm going to go over is reporting an engine repower or replacement that has been publicly funded. So remember that first step is to complete that action. So we already did an engine repower, so we're just going to skip this step because we already completed that action. So step number 2, we need to edit the vehicle to say yes, receive public funding. So I'm going to go to my vehicle and engine page. We just have to let that load for a second. And then if we scroll down, we'll find our vehicle list, and we need to find that vehicle that we repowered. So it's the first one here, and I'm going to click Edit. All right, and then we're going to look at this table, and then one of the questions says, receive public funding. We're going to say yes here. Scroll down and click Enter Vehicle and Engine Data to save that. All right, so step number 3, fill in the funding data. So where we go is the vehicle funding page right here. And you'll see that vehicle is listed on this page now. We'll click Add Edit over here on the left, and you'll see a big table come up, and it has 3 different options for funding sources. Usually there's only 1 funding source, but we give the option for 3. So you just need to fill out this top line right here. So click your funding source, the sponsor, and then it asks what was funded. We're going to pick Engine Repower, and then we need to put the contract date. This is one of the things that people commonly leave blank. You really need to enter this contract date and the end date, or else you're going to have incomplete funding information and you won't be able to do your annual reporting. Okay, once that top line is filled out, you're going to click Save Funding Data. It says data's been saved, and if you scroll down, you can now see that all the information is there. All right, so that was the first type of scenario. We're going to go over the second type, a vehicle replacement that has been publicly funded. So remember, number one is to complete the action that was funded. So we're going to go to our vehicle and engine page, and we're going to sell or retire a vehicle and then buy a new one. So we'll scroll down. I'm going to find the vehicle that was replaced, and I'm going to click Sell Retire next to that vehicle. There it is, actually. So to do this, I just need to enter the sale or retirement date. I'm going to keep it as no, it wasn't stolen, and then click Sell Retire. Vehicle sale has been recorded. You can scroll down to the bottom now. There's a button here at the bottom where you can see your sold vehicles. And there's also an option to click Oops, Unsell if you accidentally did so. Okay, we're going to go back to the Vehicle and Engine tab. And we're going to enter in that new vehicle that we purchased. All right, so we don't have an EIN on this vehicle yet. Sometimes you can purchase a vehicle and it already has that EIN label on it. All you have to do then is plug in that EIN number and all the information is saved in the database. All right, so this one doesn't have an EIN yet, so we have to enter in all the information. It doesn't have a VIN, but it does have a serial number. I'm going to enter that in. All right, and it doesn't have a license plate. It's my equipment number 9. I'm going to select the vehicle type. If you don't see your vehicle type on here, there is an other category. Select your manufacturer. And again, if you don't see the manufacturer, there is an other all the way at the bottom. But if it's something you think we should add, just shoot us an email and we'll try to add it in here. All right, so then the model year, the purchase date, the in-service date, and this is important. You need to say, yes, it did receive public funding. Okay? So that's our step number 2, remember? Oops. Okay, I don't need to fill out anything on this last section. None of this applies to me. You have some special designation options here and some awaiting sale information. If it's a 2-engine vehicle, you can click yes, and it'll give you option for 2 engines. So I'm going to finish and enter in that engine info now. Oops. Uh-oh. Looks like I got kicked out. That's all right. I'll show you guys how I can get back to Doors easily. If you Google Doors, ARB, and then Doors login, that usually brings it up right away when you Google. So I always click on the program page. And then from the program page, you can find the Doors login as one of these big yellow boxes. All right, so I'm going to log in again. You want to make sure, oh, let's try that again. You want to make sure that you use the right capitalization on your password. Looks like that's what I didn't do right there. Okay, so we're going to enter our fleet again, and I need to add that new vehicle, so I'm going to start over. Try to do it quickly. And remember, receive public funding, yes. If you have any questions about any of these fields, you're not sure if they're required of you, just shoot us a phone call. The Doors hotline is really helpful. Everyone that answers those questions is really knowledgeable about the Doors database. But if you don't think that something applies to you, you can always keep it blank. On your vehicle list, it might come up red. You want to fill in as much information as you have, but if something doesn't apply to you, just leave it blank. We're almost there. So all this information should be listed on the engine control label of your engine. I'm not going to select anything for this one. It doesn't apply. Same for this one. All right, and then I'm going to click Enter Vehicle and Engine Data, and it says my data has been saved. So now we need to do step number 3, which is we need to enter the public funding contract information. So we'll go to that vehicle funding page. You can see now that second vehicle is there. We're going to add edit, and then we're going to click that and enter the funding source again. So now it says what was funded. This time it was a vehicle replacement. So when you click that drop down box, it's going to give you the option for all of the vehicles that you've sold or retired. Right now I only have one, so it's easy. It's that EIN GN7033. For you, you might want to keep track of which EIN it is, and then you select that. All right, so for the contract date, you can pick the date that the contract began and ended. If you don't have any of this information, you're going to want to contact the funding sponsor and figure that information out because it's required to report it. All right, so we'll click Save Funding Data. It says data's been saved. All that information is listed down below now. All right, so there's one more scenario for funding. It's the funding a VDEX installation. So I'm going to go over that one now. So remember, step one is to complete the action that is funded. So we're going to go to our VDEX tab up here. This is where we can enter VDEX information. So once you're here, you can find the vehicle that was funded with a VDEX. So let's find our vehicle. It is vehicle number 5. So we'll click Add Edit. It's going to come up with this table where you can enter the VDEX information. The VDEX purchase date, and the VDEX installation date. And then this is where you need to find the VDEX family name. So your VDEX will have this on the device itself. You need to search through and find. These are all the approved VDEX family names. I'm just going to pick this first one. And then you need to click Save Data. Okay, now if you scroll down, you can see that information listed here. Okay, so step number 2, we need to edit the vehicle to say, yes, it's been funded. So we'll go to the Vehicle and Engine page. We'll scroll down and look for that vehicle that we just added a VDEX to. So that was my vehicle number 5. We'll click Add Edit, or I'm sorry, just Edit. And then we'll find that section of the table where we click Yes, Receive Public Funding. Enter vehicle and engine data to save. Now we can move on to step number 3, which is again to enter in the funding data information. So we're going to click Add Edit next to that vehicle. And again, enter in the funding source information. So what was funded? This time it was a retrofit. And we'll click Yes right here. And again, the contract date. Awesome. And we'll click Save Funding Data again. Now, if you scroll down, you can see all 3 of those publicly funded vehicles right there. And they all have information that's been inputted. You've got everything there. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next topic, which is annual reporting. So as part of the requirements, the off-road diesel regulation, you must do annual reporting yearly. All fleets are required to do this by March 1st of each year. The reporting season is through January 1st. So as early as January 1st, you can go in there, get it done in time for March 1st deadline. So for the annual reporting, you have to submit the Responsible Official Affirmation of Reporting form, or the ROAR form. The annual report verifies the fleet, owner, vehicle, and engine information in your DOORS account. And this is when you need to report the hour meter readings for low-use vehicles such as low-use, regular low-use, and low-use inside and outside of California. Also, the hours for 51 to 99% agriculture. Okay, so there's also the eROAR. It's an electronic version of the ROAR. You can access this right in DOORS itself. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second here. Another note is that all fleets must submit this. If you have a fleet in DOORS, you need to submit this, even if there's 0 vehicles in your fleet at the time. You need to at least affirm that your information is up to date. So fleets that have a parent fleet, I'm not going to go into what that means, but if you do have a parent fleet and you have fleets that are connected, that parent fleet needs to submit a ROAR as well, because you're affirming that that owner information is up to date. All right, so we're going to go into DOORS now and look for the Submit eROAR page. I'm going to click on that up here. And it's going to come up with the ROAR checklist. So you can see that it tells you right off the bat, my ROAR can't be processed at this time because I'm missing some reporting information. It'll also tell you, your fleet performance requirements have been met. So I have a green check mark there. It tells me the vehicle information is complete. This is where I need to do something. It looks like my contact info is not up to date, or it's missing. It also looks like I'm good on my hour meter readings and my ag hour logs, because I don't have any vehicles designated as agriculture. I also good to go on my vehicle funding information. So if you didn't fill out any of that funding information and it comes to annual reporting time, you'd have a red X here, and you'd need to go and fill that out. It also says right here what I'm missing, the responsible official email. So I'm going to show you how I can go update that now. That way I can submit my ROAR. There's links right here in the checklist itself, so I know it's my responsible official email, so I could just go ahead and click on this link. I could also just go to my owner information tab up here. This is where I can update all my info. Okay, so I want to make sure this is all up to date. Looks good. And this is where I need to enter my email right here, the responsible person email address. All right, and I can go down and click Save Data. All right, so it's been saved, so I can go back to that Submit eRoar page. All right, now I have a new message. It says Ready to Submit ROAR. Okay, so I have all green check marks. It looks like I'm good to go. My contact information is up to date. I know that my vehicle information is up to date because I went through that before this. I'm going to check the box next to the statement saying I understand I'm requesting a PIN. And this is just the testing that, everything's true and accurate. And then I'm requesting an electronic way to do this form. So I'm going to click Request PIN and proceed to eRoar page. And it will tell me, okay, an email containing your PIN has been sent to your email. Okay. And then it also brings up the form. So what I need to do is get that PIN so I can enter it in this green bar right here. So I'm going to just go grab that off my phone really quick. All right. I got my PIN off my phone. If you are doing this on your computer to get your PIN, just make sure you don't leave this page. You'll need to come put this PIN in, but if you leave the page, you're going to have to redo the process. So we're going to enter that PIN in now. The form goes over your doors ID, your company name, your responsible person. This is like a signature, the PIN. We're going to click Submit Electronic ROAR. Says, am I sure? I am. And that's it. So it says the electronic ROAR has been submitted successfully. If I want to print out a compliance certificate, I can do that by going to Other Tools. This is where I have some extra resources right here, and you can click on Compliance Certificate. Click View Certificate. And I can print this out for my records. You don't need to mail this in to us or anything like that. This is just for you. You can use this at your own for whatever you want, but you don't need to submit this or anything. So I'm going to close this. A lot of people do the ROAR in hard copy form, so I'm going to show you how to do that. If you go to Submit eRoar, you can see now that we have a green message saying the ROAR is in process. That's how you know you're good to go. If you scroll down, there's also a link that says ROAR form PDF. So if I click on this and open the file, it'll bring up this form. This is another way to submit the ROAR. You'll have to print this out. You'll need to click, put in the correct year right here. So for next year, it'll be 2019. And then you'll need to check one of these boxes. Captive attainment means areas of California that have better air quality. So those fleets are treated as small fleets in those areas. If you're in a captive attainment area, you need to make sure it's designated as so in your owner information page. We check this form against your owner info page. If it doesn't match, we will deny the form. So you need to make sure you click the right choice here. If it doesn't apply to you, if you operate throughout California, Central Valley and southern regions of California, it probably doesn't apply to you. So you're going to just check no right here. You're going to have to enter your doors ID right here, company name. You need to make sure it's the name of the responsible official that's on file with your doors account. Phone number, email, title, date. Signature needs to be a handwritten signature. You can't do an electronic signature here. Your form will be denied. And then down below here, you'll see where you can send this to submit it. These are some of the things we check internally. We make sure you've submitted your hours. If you do have a low use designation, we also make sure that you're not missing any information, and we also make sure you're in compliance. So this is all stuff that we check, so it kind of can be a good reminder to you to make sure your DOORS account's up to date before you submit this. The second page offers definitions and instructions about everything on that form. If there's anything you're unclear about, just come down here and there's a description of that. Okay, so that concludes the annual reporting process. At any time in that process you're not sure what you're supposed to do, just give the DOORS hotline a call. We can look at your fleet. We can see what needs to be done. This checklist is really helpful for you to see, what's affecting your fleet right now. Why are you not allowed to do your annual reporting? Things like that. Also, when it is reporting season, your message center is going to come up, and it'll tell you, your ROAR is due on this date. It'll come up with a new message saying for next year, your ROAR is due on March 1st, 2019, and it has a user guide and a link to the eROAR page right here as well. Okay, so that concludes the annual reporting. If you have questions, this isn't a live webinar, so you can't send questions now, but if you do have questions, go ahead and email the DOORS email address or call that DOORS hotline. We also have those user guides and FAQs in the Knowledge Center. For questions specific to your fleet, you really just want to call the DOORS hotline. They're really helpful. I hope this webinar was useful for you, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.